Good morning, everybody. My name is Rich from Deep Groove Mono, and I am broadcasting from Gifu, Japan right now. And I am atop the Nagoya Convention Center, right next to the hotel that we're staying in, the Miyako Hotel here in Gifu. And I'd like to do my first report on my record shopping thus far on this spring 2024 trip to Japan. Yesterday we went to Nagoya, the close by city. It takes about an hour to get there from here by bus and train. We only went to a couple stores. Nagoya is not like huge in terms of like the number of stores they have, especially for jazz and the kind of jazz I'm into. The first thing we did was we went to Disc Union. It wasn't quite as good as it was the first time in terms of stock. When I went 2 years ago, the summer of 2022, the stock was really good. I remember in the new arrivals, they just had tons and tons of beautiful Japanese reissues. I think the prices have gone up a little bit. They're still very good, especially, talking about Disc Union specifically, the prices are still very good. Yeah, but I proceeded to look through all the jazz in their jazz section. They didn't have a new arrivals for every genre, which I love. They had all the new arrivals for jazz right next to the jazz section. They had a few wall pieces. They put them right above the actual bins for jazz. Nothing too crazy. Right now the conversion rate is great. It's about 154 yen per dollar. One way that I kind of gauge this is that, like, for example, if you have a record that is 1,000 yen, right? So 1,000 yen, I actually take away 2 zeros, so I get 10, right? So if the rate was 100 to 1, then that record would cost $10, okay? But since it's 154 to 1, a 1,000 yen record costs about $6.50. Okay, so that's kind of how I gauge it. I was looking at an original pressing of Blue Train. It was actually a second pressing with the ink R on the wall. It looked VG, and they had it priced at close to 50,000 yen. So that would have been like, so I got to do my math, like 500, right? So that's like $350. Another note about grading, I'm starting to notice that the Japanese, in my opinion, generally speaking, they might overgrade a little bit, but they also might undergrade in some instances. It seems like they're very reluctant to grade anything below VG+. And for a lot of these stores, they have those description tags, the cards. I almost never see records below a B. And the other thing that's confusing that Akko and I even are trying to figure out, and Akko doesn't even understand, is that sometimes, for example, a record that the media is graded B, underneath it will say VG+, other times it will say EX-, other times it will say EX, and then B+ will also sometimes be VG+ or VG or EX, or so we're just trying to sort all that out. When you look at the records in the bins, they're in these sealable plastic sleeves, which also, by the way, are very, very dangerous to jackets, because if the jacket gets stuck on this sticky strip of adhesive, it can damage the jacket, so I hate those. But anyways, I think here in Japan, the custom is that you don't look at the records on, in the bins. You bring them up to the counter, and the clerk takes them out of the jackets for you to look at them then. I felt bad because I definitely don't want to buy much of anything without looking at it. So I brought up like a stack of 8 records for them to take out of the jacket. So yeah, anyways, the records that I looked at in terms of the grading based on the description on the card, when I got them up to the counter, I didn't really feel like the grading was that great, to be perfectly honest. That said, if it's like a reissue or something, I think a lot of times they were just kind of like very haphazardly throwing a B or a B+ on it, and it was super clean. So yeah, they had the Coltrane. They had an original of Cookin' NYC labels, 80,000 yen, which would be about 500 bucks US. It looked pretty nice. They had what looked like an original first pressing of Jackie McLean's Scene on New Jazz in the bins. That was priced at 20,000 yen approximately. That would be about 140 US, and that looked clean. I think they had it graded as a B, but that was clean. Oh, we also saw what ended up being a Blue Trident label pressing of This Is Walt Dickerson, one of Akko's favorite albums. It was graded B. I was like, whoa, this is cool, because it was only 3,000 yen. So again, that equivalent in US dollars is about $20 US. But when we went to the counter and we looked at it closer, it was the vinyl was very cloudy. It did have the Van Gelder stamp, but it was a Trident label. The vinyl didn't look good, and they mentioned the hiss. So we were just like, forget it. I mean, if it was just the hiss, that'd be fine, but the vinyl was really unattractive looking, very gray looking. I mean, I don't think it was groove wear, but it was cloudy for some reason. You know, looking at a lot of stuff, I put a lot of stuff back because of humidity staining on the jackets or the labels. They had a Liberty stereo pressing of Gratian Moncourt III's Evolution. That was graded BB, and at first glance it looked beautiful, and it was 8,800 yen, so about $50 US, and was pretty excited about that, even though I just got a really nice copy of that. That's in Earless, New York. Unfortunately, when we pulled it out, it was there was writing on the label. I mean, the description card probably said that, and I just couldn't read it because it was in Japanese. But also there was tape on the corner right below the card. So I passed on that. What did I get at Disc Union Nagoya? I got one record. That's right. I am still a committed minimalist. So, and I'm also very particular about condition. I got this lovely, lovely copy of Sonny Clark Trio on Blue Note. This is technically the original stereo pressing. This copy is extremely clean. They also had some pretty nice cool strut-ins and UA monos, but there was some humidity staining on them, so I didn't go for it. But if you look at the back of this jacket, man, I don't know how this one survived the humidity staining, but it is perfect. It looks great. And I came here knowing I wanted to get a copy of this specific pressing. I would pull out the vinyl right now to show you, but my hands are full. But it's a United Artists Classic stereo label. Beautiful vinyl too, graded B. So I don't really know what the rhyme or reason is to the grading. Other stuff was graded B and it had marks on it. So, but yeah, couldn't pass this one up. So one commenter on my last Japan video suggested that I keep a running tab of how much money I'm spending here. So I don't have the receipt on hand to tell you exactly how much I paid for this record, but it was approximately 3,300 yen, and that translates into about $21 US. So I will keep a running tab and share that with you all as I'm going through here. So $21 for that record is incredible in my opinion, so I'm very happy about that. So that's all I got at Disc Union Nagoya. From there we stopped at my favorite fast food place in Japan here, Most Burger, and then we moved on to Banana Record. You might remember from my last video that I'm not the biggest fan of Banana Record. They had a big jazz section, but I just felt like the selection maybe was a little lacking last time, and I'm pretty sure I also felt like the prices were a little high. Going into the bigger Banana Record in Nagoya yesterday, definitely felt like the prices were higher than Disc Union. One of the first things I saw when I walked in was a copy of the Magnificent Tad Jones Volume 2. It was a UA mono. It was very clean, I will say. It was priced at about 15,000 yen, and so that ends up being about $100 US. That's pretty fair. I almost got it. I passed on it. They had a copy of the Don Friedman Trio, A Day in the City, on Riverside. It was an original pressing. I think they had it graded B, but it looked really clean. It looked borderline VG Plus jacket. It was a beautiful jacket. That was about 13,000 yen, which would translate into roughly about $80 US. Very tempting. I love that cover, and I almost wanted to get it just for the cover, but I didn't get it. They had their records organized by the instrument of the leader. So they had piano, bass, drums, saxophone, flute, vibraphone, etc. Not a ton there. There was a lot to look through. Didn't feel like I was excited about that. But I did walk away with one great deal. It was this very clean copy of Red Garland, a Garland of Red on Prestige, and this is an OJC. And as you might see, extremely clean, of course. This was the equivalent of $19 US, about. So I've noticed on eBay that this record goes for quite a bit occasionally. It's a rarer OJC. So yeah, that's the only record I got from Banana Record. We are going to Osaka today. Ako is off. She walked to her parents. What direction are they in? Oh, they're over there. She'll be back soon, and we'll be heading out to my favorite Japanese breakfast spot, Komada Coffee. I got the t-shirt right here at Uniqlo yesterday. Love the anko pan there, the bread with red bean paste. So yeah, we'll probably go to Komada first, and then we'll head over to Gifu City, to catch the train to Nagoya, and then we will take the speed train, the Shinkansen, to Osaka. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you later. Hello everybody, today is Monday, May 27th here in Japan, still broadcasting from Gifu. We went to Osaka yesterday and did a lot of record shopping there. As a brief summary of Osaka this time, I would say it was a lot more crowded than it was in the summer of 2022, the last time and first time I visited Japan. COVID was still going on. Japan still had its borders closed to tourists at that time. I was here, I guess, technically on a technicality, being Ako's fiance at the time. Now that I finished at Osaka, we went to actually a total of 7 stores in Osaka over a period of like 6 hours. As far as like the stock of the stores, overall I'd say it was a little less stocked. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I would say the ratio of US pressings to Japanese pressings is the most dramatic change. There was definitely a lot less US pressings than there was 2 years ago. Lots of great Japanese pressings, but US pressings are a little light. I am suspicious that a lot of foreigners come here that aren't American, and they snatch up a lot of the US pressings when they come here. And you know, coming here in the summer of 2022, I had no competition over the past like 2 years. I was surprised though that in terms of Blue Note, there was not a ton of late 60s, early 70s pressings with the Van Gelder stamp, like you know, the Blue Label stuff, Black Bee, White Bee, and like the Divisional Liberty stuff with Van Gelder stamp. There's a lot of United Artists Classic Label stuff here though. I think that in the late 60s, well, that would be the early 70s, the US was exporting a ton of stuff here to Japan. Well, the Blue Note was at the very least. I think what happened was a lot of the stuff got pressed in the US and it was exported here for sale here. So you get a lot of stuff that's like exactly like a US pressing, but it might have like a sticker or an OB that like kind of like makes it kind of like a Japanese pressing. But for all intents and purposes, if you remove the sticker or the OB, it's exactly the same as a US pressing. So there's a lot of that stuff around here, and I got at least one of those, maybe 2 to show you here today. I'll show you what I got in Osaka right now. I bought a total of 13 LPs. We started the day around shopping for records around 11:30 a.m. We got there, we got something to eat, and then I went into Banana Record. They had a bunch of great Japanese jazz. They had lots of wave jazz classics, king reissues of Japanese jazz artists. Hideo Shiraki, Sadao Watanabe. This one here that I ended up not even knowing I was interested in until the very end of my trip 2 years ago. This record by Akira Miyazawa. Pretty rare in any format. Was really happy to find this one. This record is called Yamame, which translates into fish in English. It's the Wave Jazz Classics. By the way, I just had to open this up, and I really hate these obies with the adhesive strip. They're very dangerous to jackets. They can ruin jackets. But I'm learning how to get around them and navigate around them. You just got to make sure that once you pull something out, it goes nowhere near the top of it, where the adhesive strip is. Just make sure you avoid that. Love this cover for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, the geometry of it is really cool, like the angling of the photograph. Nice colors, nice design, very minimalist. Music-wise, I've listened to this on the internet a couple times on YouTube. It's good. It's good hard bop, it sounds like, for the most part, but Miyazawa is drenched in reverb. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to get past that in terms of listening to this on a regular basis. But anyways, I really love the cover, and I think it's very collectible. I bought this for just under 10,000 yen, which, believe it or not, translates into $65 US. And I just think that that's an incredible price for this. I think on Discogs it would be very hard to find this under $100, especially including shipping from Japan. So that was the only thing I got at Banana Record in Osaka. I thought about getting some of the other Wave Jazz Classics reissues of the King Classic stuff, and I decided not to. Banana Record Nagoya had a couple of original pressings of King Japanese jazz LPs. I think they were original mono pressings, and they were about $90 to $100, but they were some of the other titles that were more like kind of like swing and Dixieland kind of stuff. They weren't really in the hard bop vein, so I passed on them, but they were really cool. And then I went on to Disc Union Osaka, and that was not as good as it was last time. You know, I'm thinking about it more. It wasn't great last time, but like last time I found like a couple records that were awesome. I found they had like an original pressing of Detroit, New York Junction, Tad Jones. This time it was okay. It wasn't, I'd still say the Nagoya one beats the Osaka one. Probably less picked over. It was crowded in this Disc Union too at Osaka. I mean, Osaka was extremely crowded. I mean, like, there was a lot of people there for Sunday. And there were certain shopping areas we were in where it was just shoulder to shoulder, like walking for like a half a mile. But yeah, I still ended up getting a few great OJCs at Disc Union Osaka. The first one I'll show you here is one that I've been looking for a long time, actually. I just haven't been able to get a nice clean OJC of this. Art Taylor, Taylor's Whalers. This has a killer version of Cubano Chant written by Ray Bryan on it. But this one was 2,850 yen, translating into $18 US. So pretty much near mint condition for that one. Next, close by, was Jazz Record Seed, and this is like what I'd call North Osaka. That was very telling in terms of like original pressing availability here right now. I saw a lot of great rare original pressings there for reasonable prices last time. This time at Jazz Record Seed, and pretty much everywhere so far, I've seen like pretty much like Warhorse originals that haven't even necessarily been great prices, but I really haven't seen a lot of like less than common original pressings at the stores this time. That store is pretty well organized. I love that they put all the OJCs in one section. That's something I love about Jazz Record Seed. And then they put all their Blue Notes together, so that was easy to find all that stuff. And they've got tons and tons of like unorganized bins of great Japanese reissues. I didn't really look through those like exactly carefully at every single record. But this is probably one of the more exciting finds of the whole trip so far here. I got a near mint copy of Yuta Hip with Zoot Sims. This is a United Artists mono pressing from the early 1970s. It's got the shrink wrap still on it. It's got the sticker, the Japanese Obi sticker, despite this being actually technically a US pressing, exactly the same as a US pressing. And most importantly, no cut corners. No cut corners. Yeah, this copy is beautiful. And I got this for, it was 13,250 yen before tax, but they charged me tax there, and I was a little disappointed with that. Like, I paid cash. I don't think most of these places charge tax when you pay cash, so I was a little bummed about that, and I didn't even realize they did it till after I left. But anyways, this one was about 14,250 yen after tax, and that translates into $92 US. And for a near mint copy of this with no corners cut, I mean, I really think you're looking above $150 normally on the internet nowadays, at least. Yeah, so the jacket is just lovely. Just lovely. Beautiful white on the back there. Yeah, there's the obi, kind of coming off a little bit, but such a cool obi. The labels look great. Oh wow, it's in a rice paper sleeve. I wonder if these originally came in rice paper sleeves. That is so cool. I didn't even look because I asked the clerk, really nice guy who spoke a little English. I asked him if I could look at it, and he was like, "This is near mint. This may have never been played." He knew before he even pulled it out, and I was like, "Oh, that's fine then. I don't even worry about it. These labels are perfect." There's that focusing. I think it's focusing. I gather that the Japanese love this record, and I think there's a lot of copies of it here, especially as Japanese reissues. Also at Jazz Record Seed, I got a couple of OJCs. This one I would never buy unless it was very cheap and in good condition, and that's exactly what it was. Gil Malay plays Primitive Modern, this OJC here. This is a prestige title. It's very experimental for like whenever it was recorded, probably 1956, 57. So last time I listened to it, I didn't love the music, but I'm all about like collecting records for the covers nowadays if it's cheap enough. And this definitely fit into that category. After tax, about 1,650 yen. That translates into $11 US. Yeah, and I'll give the music another chance. Maybe there's something on here that I didn't really listen to that much that'll catch my ear. But then the other one I got, I've kind of shunned this in past videos, but Jimmy Rainey A, same price, $11 US, near mint condition. I really love the compilation of both 10 inches on this here. I love both the 10 inches. I love the music on both of them. I really think they're solid start to finish. My one gripe is that they did this weird thing where they put the first song of the second 10 inch at the end of the first side. But I mean, I can play this start to finish without wanting to skip a song or anything. So I mean, it's a great compilation. So that was Jazz Record Seed. And then on to my favorite, Maru Ka Batsu. Why do I like Maru Ka Batsu so much? It feels like it's a little off the beaten path. I don't get the impression that every tourist knows about it. They have great jazz. They have great prices. They're the owners. I believe the clerks are the owners, and it's an older Japanese husband and wife. And Akko always has a nice time talking to them. They give us a 20% off discount coupon every time we go that we can use next time. So I used mine from 2 years ago. I used it this time. And they told us back then that we would be able to use it in 2 years. That was awesome. So got some really cool stuff at Maru Ka Batsu, 3 records. The first couple I'll show you here are OJCs. They're rare OJCs, very rare OJCs. This is Prestige All-Stars Oleo. Sometimes you'll see the leader identified as Tad Jones on this one since he's the first one with his name listed here. But yeah, I love this album. I got an original of this for like $10 at Academy Records on 12th Street in Manhattan. I don't know, like in 2016 or something like that. And it played well. It had a skip that I fixed with an X-Acto knife, but I ended up selling it at some point. It was a presentable VG, like the jacket, but anyways, I ended up making a little bit of money on it. OJC made stuff in the 90s that it doesn't actually have the OJC catalog number on the spine or on the back, but it is for all intents and purposes an OJC. So that's one of those. I got that for 2,000 yen after my discount, $13 US. And here's another one, very rare OJC, Ray Draper Tuba Sounds, awesome record. I love Mimi's interlude on this. I love Pivot. This has Webster Young on trumpet, Ray Draper on tuba, Jackie McLean, Mal Waldron. This lineup is awesome. I always say that I love when they put the artists actually on the back there like that. I love that. So yeah, this one was also 2,000 yen, $13 US. Great record, great condition. So I've been in the market for a stereo Van Gelder stamp song for my father, and I found a really nice one at Maru Ka Batsu. There it is, nice jacket. Very presentable, beautiful, beautiful disc. It's a Black Bee Black Bee pressing, and it has the Van Gelder stamp. So yeah, that one was great. I got that for 6,400 yen after the 20% discount. That is about $40 US. And from there, we had one more successful stop at HMV Osaka, which opened since we came 2 years ago. And I love HMV in Tokyo. I love both of them. And this was no different. I loved it. It was great. It had great stock, great prices. The first one that I'm pretty excited about is this. This is actually technically considered an original stereo pressing of Cool Struttin'. For all intents and purposes, this is a US pressing. I assume that what happened was it was just imported to Japan and the obi was put on it afterwards. And if you're shopping for these in Japan anytime, don't sleep on the fact that you see the obi. I think that some people might shy away from like the LNJ or LNR reissues, Japanese reissues from the early 70s sometimes. But like you can see if you look at the catalog number on the obi there that it is a BST catalog number, so that's a US pressing if you see that. This is very clean. It's just shy of near mint. It's got a little bit of staining in the very corner up here. Shrink wrap. Disc is clean. Beautiful stereo presentation of this music. And again, we've got, oh, this is actually not a Liberty. I take that back. I apologize. This is not an original US stereo pressing. This is a United Artists. I'm just realizing that now. Look at that. Yeah, it's not Liberty. It's United Artists. But yeah, those labels are beautiful. This record was 7,000 yen, so that's the equivalent of $45 US. Very clean. And I get clean copies of this whenever I get a chance. I love this record, Herbie Hancock Maiden Voyage. This is a Black Bee Blue Label pressing with the Van Gelder stamp. This is the cleanest cover I've ever gotten for this record. Really nice. There's always like some ring wear up here, it seems like, and there's no ring wear on this here at all. And the back is, the white on the back is very, very nice, very bright. The thing with all the late 60s, early 70s Van Gelder stamp stuff, the Blue Label, whether it has the Van Gelder stamp or not, they all have similar jackets. They all have the Liberty logo up here, even if they're United Artists pressings, I've discovered, I've realized. And sometimes the cardboard construction's a little different, and I don't think they were all made in the same place for that period of like maybe 10 years. But all of the jackets are pretty much the same. So you could actually you could pair a jacket with from one pressing from one copy with a vinyl from another copy, and it would be totally passable and totally acceptable in my opinion. Sometimes I look at the cardboard construction and it's a little different, but I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? If you want to put something in the comments section about it, I don't think there's anything wrong with pairing a Black Bee jacket with a Liberty or a early UA vinyl. Yeah, so that was very clean, so I couldn't pass that up. That was 4,600 yen, the equivalent of $30 US. And finally, at Akko's suggestion, I got two great Wave Jazz Classics reissues of new jazz titles. The first one here I'll show you is Jerome Richardson, Midnight Oil. Akko's a big fan of this record, and we listened to it in the store on our headphones, and it's great. Rudy Van Gelder, Englewood Cliffs recording, lovely sounding. So this was very cheap, 1,500 yen, $10 US. And also, she pointed this one out here, Dizzy Reese Asia Minor. That's a Wave Jazz Classics reissue. Wave tended to reissue stuff that has not been reissued much, if at all, at that point in the early 90s, and since then it really isn't that heavily reissued. So these are a real treat to find. Also beautifully recorded, beautiful music, and this one was 2,500 yen, which is $16 US. Yeah, so that was basically, that's the summary of Osaka. We went to Rubik Records for the first time, down further south in Osaka. They had a lot of jazz. Most of it was disorganized. It was just like rows and rows and rows of disorganized Japanese reissues. We really just didn't have the energy to go through it. Ako saw a couple of rarer records she's interested in, a Brew More live, but we decided to pass on it. Yeah, and then we came back here. It was a long day. We did a lot of walking. We were exhausted by the time we got home. We had so many transfers. We had to walk to the bus about 15 minutes, and then we had to take the bus to the Gifu local train station, and then we took the local train to Nagoya. And then finally in Nagoya, we took the Shinkansen, the speed train, to Osaka. That's how we got there, and that's how we got home in reverse. And it was a lot of traveling. If we do this again, we can't do all that traveling by public transit in one day. We're gonna have to break it up into 2 days. So yeah, but we're rested today and we're recovered. We finally started catching up from our jet lag a couple days ago. So yeah, we got one more trip to Tokyo in store in 2 days. And I will be sure to show you all what I get there once I have it. Stay tuned. See you soon. Hello again, everybody. I am now back in the United States at my home here in Albany, New York. I've been back from Japan about a week exactly. Came back home last Thursday. I'm finally getting over jet lag. I did experience some pretty intense anxiety through the jet lag this time. Ako really helped out a lot, helping me through it. But I am here today. I got a good night's sleep last night, and I am finally ready to show you all what I got in Tokyo and tell you about record shopping in Tokyo this time. Last time, I felt like Tokyo was a little underwhelming compared to Osaka. Tokyo felt a little more picked over than Osaka last time. Tokyo was much better this time. Ako and I left her hometown for good on Tuesday morning. We went to Nagoya, got the Shinkansen speed train to Tokyo, and we arrived in Tokyo about 2:30. The plan was for her to go from the Shinagawa train station to the hotel, which was very close to the Haneda airport. And then I was going to put my suitcases in a locker at the Shinagawa train station and go on to Shibuya to meet up with Michael Skulnick, aka Ricefield Records, and Takashi, aka JazzLoveJapan. So that was the plan, to meet them around 4:00 p.m. in Shibuya. And we decided to meet at Disc Union, I believe it's called Rare Groove Jazz. Last time, their wall was completely insane. They had all these amazing rare first pressings. So I got there first before Michael and Takashi, and I got a head start, and I was looking at the new arrivals. And well, the first thing I noticed walking in was that the walls were not nearly as good. But yeah, and then the bins were the same thing this time. 2 years later, you know, they weren't very good. So Michael came in, I got to say hello to him. Takashi came in. And we were all meeting for the first time in person. So we had a lot of just like small talk together in the store. And we finished up there pretty quickly. It really wasn't good. And I had a really bad feeling at this point about Tokyo. On to HMV Shibuya after that, which I really liked the first time I went to Tokyo. That was really good. That was actually much better. That was actually amazing. When we first got in there, the place that last time had all these great originals on the wall. I remember there was an original of Lee Morgan Volume 3 on the wall that time. The wall this time was just all new releases, reissues. And then they had the new arrivals bin right below that. And that wasn't really too good either. And then I went over to the main bins for jazz. And those really weren't so great either. But then I realized they had like a sale section in the middle of the store. And it was all jazz. It was like 8 crates. And that was ridiculous. That was like the best jazz I saw the whole trip. I remember there was a Horace Parlan Speaking My Piece. It was like the equivalent of like 1,200 US. 2 original 10-inch Blue Notes that I almost got. One of them was Elma Hope Trio. I actually saw that last time in Disc Union Nagoya. It was the equivalent of like $420 US. And I was very close, very tempted to buy that. I couldn't buy it like impulsively on the spot though. I said to myself, if I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna have to come back, look at it, listen to it, and then make a decision. And it turned out that I just ran out of time. I just didn't have time to go back there. Also saw 2 original pressings of George Wellington Showcase, which is one of my favorite records. And same thing, if I had more time, I would have come back and listened to it and tried to get one maybe, but I didn't. They had all kinds of crazy originals. They had a first pressing of Mobley's Message. It was loaded in that middle sales section. Through all that, I actually didn't get anything. I was really close to getting a couple things. From there, we went on to Tower Records Shibuya, and I remembered that store being really good last time. There was actually a sale last time, and we got our records for really good prices. This time it was really good again. Takashi and I had a lot to talk about. I came really close to buying an OJC of Teo, which is the Prestige Jazz Quartet with Teo Macero. Really close to buying that. I was going to also buy, I went to the counter and I took a look at a copy of Coltrane Live at Birdland. I thought that it was a red ring Impulse label, Impulse ABC label with Van Gelder stamp, but the cover didn't have the coating, interestingly. So once I realized the cover didn't have the coating, I realized it wasn't an original cover. I was just like, nah, forget it. And so we left there, but the pickings were very good there, actually. So that was the last place we went in Shibuya. Then we went on, we took the train north to Shinjuku. And the first place we went to there was HMV. And that was terrific. I mean, I remember I went to that store a lot when I went to Japan 2 years ago. And it was great. They had so much great stuff. They had a first mono pressing of Gratian Moncourt III's some other stuff. It was probably the equivalent of like $275 US. That seemed pretty fair. That's a rare record. I saw a UA stereo of Hank Mobley Workout with no Van Gelder stamp. That was like the equivalent of like US 90. I thought that was a little high. It was clean, but I saw Bobby Hutcherson Happenings. It was a Liberty stereo with Van Gelder stamp. I was very close to buying that. That was like 20,000 yen, which converts into like 120 US. And if it wasn't for a little bit of humidity staining on the back of the jacket, and the record wasn't the cleanest I've ever seen in Japan, so I actually let that one go. They had a first stereo pressing of Juju, Wayne Shorter. That was probably somewhere in the ballpark of 400 US. The one record I did get, I finally bought a record in Tokyo at HMV Shinjuku, and it was a nice OJC that I've been looking for a while. It was Rollins Plays for Bird. To add it to the tally of what I've bought so far, I got this record for 3,190 yen, which translates into about $21 US. Pretty rare OJC in terms of my experience, so I thought that was a really good deal, so I got that. That was really nice. Yeah, so I left HMV Shinjuku with that record, and then on to Disc Union second-hand store. They had another great jazz section. Last time I went there, I got a really great deal on a John Coltrane record on Atlantic, a US pressing. They had a first stereo pressing of Joe Henderson Mode for Joe. A little pricey. That was probably somewhere around $325 US. They had a first stereo pressing of Kenny Dorham Una Mas, and that was a little bit better. That was maybe around $250 US. What I ended up taking out of there was this awesome OJC that I was actually thinking if I saw it, I would get it. I was thinking I was going to get it as a like a Victor Japan 70s reissue, but I found the OJC. Mobley's Message, Hank Mobley. Very rare OJC, I would say. I've always loved this recording and this album art. You know, song selection-wise, performance-wise, it's kind of a blowing session. It's kind of a very run-of-the-mill hard bop date, in my opinion, but still just a very fun album that is beautifully recorded by Rudy Van Gelder in his Hackensack studio. So super psyched to find this. I paid 3,250 yen for this one, and in US dollars that was also right around $21 US, so that was great. This was actually the only record I ended up getting at Disc Union secondhand store. At that point it was around 7 o'clock and I had to get back to the hotel to meet Akko. Said goodbye to Takashi and Michael. Yeah, it was really nice to meet them and hang out with them and chat with them while we were digging. That was supposed to be the end of my Tokyo digging. So went back to the hotel, stayed overnight at the hotel, woke up the next day, figured out that our flight was delayed. So our flight to Atlanta, Georgia was delayed. We were supposed to leave around 5:30 p.m. in the evening, and our flight got delayed until about 9:30 p.m. So we had a lot more free time. We actually weren't going to go back into central Tokyo like I did the day before until we realized that our flight had been delayed. So Akko and I decided to go in together and get shabu shabu for lunch, one of our favorites. Then we went on back to Shinjuku, and we went to Disc Union Jazz in Shinjuku, the store that I didn't get to go to the day before. So that was great. So when I went in there, I went up to the third floor, I think it is, the jazz floor. And right away I saw that they also had a killer wall. They had so much good stuff on their wall. They had like a first Lexington pressing of J.R. Montero's. They had a first pressing, the 10-inch of Thelonious Monk, Genius of Modern Music Volume 1. So that was cool. Started looking in their US bins, and they had a Blue Note section in there, and found some really cool stuff in there. Found this really clean pressing, stereo pressing of Paul Chambers' Bass on Top. And this would be considered the original stereo pressing of this. It has Liberty labels. Yep, so Liberty labels on that. The original stereo pressing of this. It was mastered very quietly, so I'd say it's really important if you're interested in this that you get a really clean pressing of it. And fortunately that's what this was. But yeah, looking really nice here. Nice clean back, slick, no cut corners. And yeah, so I was really happy to get that. I paid 4,250 yen for that, and that translates into $28 US. Yeah, that's not an RVG stamp. I've been much more open to the non-RVG stamped late 60s, early 70s stuff as of late. The next one I pulled out of that section was this, another beautiful, clean stereo reissue, this time Blue Train. Really nice Black B label pressing. No cut corners again, a pet peeve of mine. This one did not have the Van Gelder stamp, although lots of these, you can find this pretty easily with the Van Gelder stamp, RVG stereo, technically one of the first stereo master discs that Rudy cut. Yeah, so another really nice one that I was happy to grab for a good price. This one was $46.50 in yen, and that's $30 US. And this is a really wonderful mastering, I will say. Like I said, the bass on top mastered very quietly. This one, loud and clear, nice wide stereo separation, kind of similar to the Tone Poet actually. This is a great mastering of this. The non-RVG. You can either get the late 60s or early 70s, the Liberty, or the United Artists stereo without RVG stamp, and it sounds awesome. So that's highly recommended. And then I got another unexpected treat in that section of the store, a record that I did see in Disc Union Nagoya, but what had some humidity staining on the label, and it wasn't really in the greatest shape. But this one, again, very clean, might have came from the same collector, I would guess. Lou Takes Off by Lou Donaldson. And I overlooked this record for a long time. I don't know why. It's wonderful. The lineup is great. Donald Byrd, Curtis Fuller, one of my favorites. Sonny Clark, one of my favorites. Art Taylor, one of my favorites. Yeah, so this was in great shape. This is true stereo. It is not an RVG stereo. Rudy never mastered this in stereo. It is United Artists stereo labels there. It's just a beautiful sounding pressing. Whoever mastered it did a wonderful job. The pressing is very quiet. They did a good job at the pressing plant with it, and the music is great. I'm really psyched to listen to this more now that I have it. So that was a little bit more expensive, maybe because it was so clean, and maybe it's a little rarer, maybe. 5,750 yen, and in US dollars, $37. So one more record I got upstairs at Disc Union Jazz in Shinjuku. Went over to the main bins for jazz, which are basically sorted by leader instrument. And in the piano section, I went to Mal Waldron and found the OJC pressing of Mal 1. Pretty much anytime I see a Hackensack OJC, I grab it if it's the right price. And this was indeed the right price, 1,900 yen, which translates only into about $11 US. The only gripe about the OJC reissue of this is that for some reason they added a black border to the album art that's not on the original. But I mean, it's obviously, I don't really care too much about that. It's still a really nice high resolution presentation of the album art there. You can see the cursive names there on the album art there. I've always liked that. Yep. So I failed to mention that before I went up to the third floor of this store to check out the jazz floor, I actually checked out some jazz bins on the first floor in the back of the first floor. For whatever reason, the first floor is like a general all genre area. In the back, they do have jazz. It's quite a few bins. It's probably 6 to 8 bins of jazz, and they have a little wall. When I went there 2 years ago, going up on my way to the elevator, I saw that they had stuff on the wall, jazz on the wall, and then I turned around and I saw they had jazz in the bin, so I was like, cool. Now, why did I not tell you that I did that before I went upstairs? Because I found by far the most thrilling, exciting find of my trip in these bins, which might get overlooked from time to time. People might actually just, dart for the elevator and go up to the jazz floor. But let me first show you the first record I got down there. Very nice, clean copy of Something Else, Cannonball Adderley. This is an RVG stereo pressing with the Black B labels. Yep, Black B sitting right here. Nice and clean. And this was the equivalent of $22 US, 3,350 yen. Now, for this next one, I had seen so many copies of Sonny Clark Trio on my trip, and the same thing was true 2 years ago when I went to Japan. I had already gotten that beautiful original stereo copy of Sonny Clark Trio at Disc Union Nagoya, and I had seen a bunch of copies of that at other stores on the trip after that. So I'm flipping through these bins on the first floor, in the back of the first floor of Disc Union Shinjuku, and I see a copy of Sonny Clark Trio. And, I always look at them just like curious about what pressing it is. I don't know why, but yeah, I always look at them. Usually what I'll do is I'll check and see if it is a UA stereo, if it's a US pressing, or if it's a Japanese reissue. I mean, I guess I'm just a big fan of the album. I really love the album art. But normally down here, it usually says original stereo recording. And this one did not. And I was trying to think, well, but it also doesn't say Toshiba. And it also it doesn't have a King catalog number. It doesn't have GXF anywhere. So I'm like, maybe I should check this out. And, it was in the sealed plastic outer sleeve, so I had to take it to the counter. So anyways, I went flipping through everything. I was really close to putting it back, but I figured, well, it'll only take a second. So I went up to the counter, gave it to the clerk, he took it out. Once he pulled it out of the plastic and he took the description tag away, I noticed that up here, it said BLP 1579. So I was like, okay. And I think even before, I noticed on the back here that it said BLP 1579 no stereo. So that was another thing that I think made me want to take it to the counter. Now, when I first pulled it out, it was in one of those like half moon Japanese inner sleeves. So yeah, when I pulled it out, I thought, oh, this is a Japanese reissue, you know. Obviously, the whole time I'm thinking maybe it's an original US mono pressing. But then I saw that inner sleeve and I was just like, oh well. It was exciting for a moment. But then I noticed that it said Micro Groove on the label. And then I noticed that it said Division of Liberty on the label. And I'm starting to think, well, wait a second. And then I started looking at the dead wax, and the first thing I saw was a 9M. And then I turned it a little bit, and then I saw an RVG stamp. And this record was priced at 3,850 yen, translating into US dollars, 25 US dollars. It was graded like B, VG++ or whatever. It's very clean. There's just like a very, very light amount of humidity staining on the side 2 label, and a very light amount of humidity staining on the back of the jacket. But yeah, so front very presentable, of course, no cut corners, no splits, just beautiful. And so I knew this record was worth at least $300 US. And like, this was probably the most thrilling find I've ever gotten at a record store in my whole life. I wouldn't go as far as saying I was trembling, but I mean, once I saw the RVG stamp, I was just trying to be really cool about it. Like, okay, I'll take this one, you know. But I was so thrilled. So that was just a really wonderful find to end the trip, basically. That was the last record store that I went to. So yeah, it was overall a really great time in Tokyo. This time, I would say Tokyo had Osaka beat. So before I would have said if you had to choose between the two cities to shop, I would go to Osaka. Tokyo was better this time. I enjoyed it more. So that was the whole trip. Spent about 100,000 yen. That equates to about $600 US. So that concludes my coverage of my trip to Japan 2024. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.